What if everything you were taught about wealth was incomplete? What if the gap between where you are and where you want to be is not about effort, but about understanding? This audiobook will reveal the hidden architecture of success. You will learn how thought becomes reality, how desire transforms into achievement, how ordinary people access extraordinary results. This is not theory. This is the blueprint. Your financial future begins in your mind, and it begins right now. Chapter 1. The Burning Point, where all fortune begins. There is a moment that separates those who succeed from those who do not. It is not talent. It is not luck. It is not education, background, or opportunity. It is something far more powerful. It is the intensity of want. But not the kind of want you think. Most people believe they want wealth. They believe they want success. They say the words. They make the plans. But beneath the surface there is only preference, a wish, a hope. True desire is different. It burns, it consumes, it refuses to accept no as a permanent answer. When you observe the lives of those who have built empires from nothing, you will notice something they all share. It is not genius, it is not perfection, it is obsession with a single outcome. They decided what they wanted, and they made that decision absolute. There was no backup plan, no exit strategy, no comfortable alternative waiting in the shadows. This is the first and most misunderstood principle of wealth creation. Desire must be definite. Desire must be all-consuming. Desire must override fear, doubt, and the endless distractions of comfort. Let me tell you what most people do. They want financial freedom, but they also want security. They want to build a business, but they also want a guarantee. They want transformation, but they do not want discomfort. This is not desire. This is negotiation. And the universe does not negotiate. It responds to clarity. It responds to certainty. It responds to the frequency of absolute decision. Think about fire for a moment. When you light a match, you create a small flame. It flickers. It can be extinguished by a breath of air. It is fragile. But when you take that same flame and feed it, protect it, and give it fuel, something changes. It grows, it spreads, it becomes unstoppable. Your desire works the same way. A weak want will die at the first obstacle. A burning desire will find a way, create a way, or become the way. Now, here is what you must understand. Desire is not born from logic. Logic will always find reasons why something cannot be done. Logic will show you the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and it will tell you the gap is too wide. Logic is the enemy of transformation. Desire is born from vision, from the ability to see, in your mind, a version of your life that does not yet exist, and to see it so clearly, so vividly, that it becomes more real than your current circumstances. This is not fantasy. This is creation. Every single thing that exists in the physical world was once a thought. The device you are listening to this on, the home you live in, the systems that govern economies, they all began as invisible ideas in someone's mind, and those ideas were powered by desire. Without desire, the idea remains dormant. It sits in the realm of possibility but never crosses into reality. Desire is the bridge. So the question you must ask yourself is this: do you truly want what you say you want, or do you simply like the idea of it? Because if you only like the idea, you will stop at the first sign of resistance. You will find a reason to quit. You will tell yourself it was not meant to be. But if you truly want it, if you burn for it, resistance becomes irrelevant. Obstacles become puzzles to solve, not walls to stop you. Let me give you a test. When you think about your goal, does it make you uncomfortable? Does it require you to become someone you are not yet? Does it demand that you abandon old patterns, old beliefs, old versions of yourself? If the answer is yes, you are on the right path. True desire always requires transformation. It does not ask you to stay the same and simply receive more. It demands evolution. Most people avoid this. They want the result without the becoming. They want wealth without the identity of a wealthy person. They want success without the discipline of a successful person. And so they remain stuck, wondering why their affirmations do not work, why their vision boards gather dust, why their goals feel hollow. The reason is simple. They never made the internal shift. They never truly decided. Here is what decision looks like. It is final. It is non-negotiable. It burns away all other options. When you decide, you stop entertaining doubt. You stop asking if it is possible. You stop looking for permission from others. You simply begin, and you continue until the thing is done. This is the secret that no one tells you. Wealth, success, achievement, they are not given to the most talented. They are given to the most committed. To those who refuse to let go of the vision, no matter what. To those whose desire is so strong that failure is not an option, not because failure cannot happen, but because they will simply keep going until it does not matter anymore. You see, most people think desire is a feeling, something that comes and goes, something that needs to be maintained by motivation or inspiration. But true desire is a decision, a permanent state of being, a line drawn in the sand that says, "This is who I am now, and I will not go back." So if you are listening to this and you feel a stirring inside, pay attention. That stirring is not random. It is the beginning of something, but you must feed it. You must protect it. You must refuse to let the voices of doubt, fear, and limitation extinguish it. Because on the other side of that burning desire is everything you have ever wanted. Not because the universe rewards wanting, but because burning desire changes you. It makes you sharper, more focused, more willing to do what others will not, and that is the real secret. Wealth does not come to those who want it. Wealth comes to those who become the kind of person wealth flows to. And that transformation begins with desire, the kind that burns, the kind that cannot be ignored, the kind that will not let you rest until the vision becomes real. This is where your journey begins, not with a plan, not with a strategy, but with a decision so powerful that everything else must align to it. Ask yourself now, what do I truly want? And am I willing to burn for it? If the answer is yes, everything changes. Starting now. Chapter 2. The Architecture of Belief. Building unshakable faith. Desire sets the direction, but belief builds the road. You can want something with every fiber of your being, but if you do not believe it is possible for you, your desire will turn into frustration. It will become a weight you carry, not a force that propels you. This is the second principle, and it is where most people fail. They confuse wishing with believing. They confuse hoping with knowing. True belief is not an emotion. It is a conviction so deep that it operates independently of evidence. Let me explain what I mean. Right now, you believe the sun will rise tomorrow. You do not hope it will. You do not wish it will. You simply know it will. You do not need proof. You do not need reassurance. The belief is installed at such a fundamental level that you organize your entire life around it. You set your alarm. You make plans. You assume tomorrow will come. This is the kind of belief you must develop about your goal. Not a surface-level affirmation, not a fragile hope that crumbles under pressure, but a core-level knowing that what you desire is already done. Now here is the problem. Your subconscious mind does not care about what you want. It only cares about what you believe, and most people believe in their limitations far more than they believe in their potential. They have spent years accumulating evidence of why things do not work out, why they are not lucky, why success is for other people, and that evidence has been fed into the subconscious, over and over, until it became the operating system. This is why affirmations fail for most people. They say, "I am wealthy," while their subconscious screams, "No, you are not." They say, "I am successful," while every cell in their body remembers failure. The words have no power because they do not match the belief. So how do you change belief? How do you reprogram a system that has been running the same code for decades? You do it the same way it was programmed in the first place, through repetition, through emotional intensity, through relentless focus on the new truth you want to install. Let me give you a framework. Belief is constructed from 3 elements. First, clarity. You must know exactly what you want. Vague goals produce vague beliefs. If you say, "I want to be rich," your subconscious has no idea what that means. Rich compared to what? How much? By when? The goal must be specific, measurable, and vivid. I will have $1 million in liquid assets by December 31st, 2026. Now your mind has something to work with. Now belief has a target. Second, saturation. You must immerse yourself in the new belief until it becomes automatic. This means you write it down every day. You speak it out loud. You visualize it with emotion. You do not do this once and hope it sticks. You do it every single day without exception until your subconscious accepts it as fact. Think of it like learning a language. At first, the words feel foreign. You have to think about every sentence. But after enough repetition, the language becomes natural. You stop translating. You simply speak. Belief works the same way. At first, it feels like you are lying to yourself. Your logical mind will resist. But if you persist, if you saturate your consciousness with the new belief, something shifts. The resistance fades. The belief takes root. And eventually, it becomes who you are. Third, evidence. Your subconscious needs proof that the belief is valid. But here is the trick. You do not wait for external proof. You create internal proof. Every time you take an action aligned with your goal, you are sending a signal to your subconscious. You're saying, this is real, I am serious, I am becoming this person. Every small win reinforces the belief. Every step forward adds weight to the new identity. This is why action is so critical. Not because the action itself creates the result, though it often does, but because action builds belief. And belief is what allows you to persist when logic tells you to quit. Now, let me tell you what happens when belief is fully installed. Opportunities appear, not because the universe magically delivers them, but because you finally notice them. Your mind is now tuned to the frequency of your goal. You see connections others miss. You take risks others avoid. You persist when others give up. This is not luck. This is the natural result of aligned belief. But there is a deeper level to this. Belief does not just change what you see. It changes what you attract. Let me be very clear. I am not talking about mystical woo-woo. I am talking about the observable reality that people respond to certainty. When you believe in yourself, others believe in you. When you move with conviction, doors open. When you carry yourself as someone who is already successful, people treat you that way. This is not manipulation. This is alignment. Your internal state radiates outward. It affects your tone, your posture, your decisions, your energy. And people feel it. Investors feel it. Clients feel it. Partners feel it. Belief is magnetic. Doubt is repellent. So the question becomes, how do you maintain belief when circumstances contradict it? How do you keep faith when the bank account is empty? When the deal falls through? When progress feels invisible? This is the test. And this is where most people fail. They allow temporary circumstances to overwrite permanent belief. They see the current reality, and they conclude that the goal is not possible. But here is what you must understand. Your current reality is the result of your past beliefs. It is old data. It is not predictive of your future. If you want a different future, you must hold a different belief, regardless of what you currently see. This requires discipline, mental discipline. The kind that says, I do not care what it looks like right now, I know where I am going. The kind that refuses to be moved by opinion, by circumstance, by temporary setbacks. This is not denial. This is focus. You acknowledge the present without being defined by it. You see the obstacle without calling it permanent. You experience the failure without making it your identity. Let me give you a simple practice. Every morning before you do anything else, you declare your belief, out loud, with emotion, not as a wish, but as a statement of fact. I am building wealth. I am solving problems that matter. I am becoming the person my goals require. You do this before the world tells you otherwise, before doubt creeps in, before the noise of the day drowns out your vision. And every night before you sleep, you do it again. You feed the belief. You strengthen the signal. You remind your subconscious what is true. Over time, this practice becomes more powerful than any external circumstance, because belief, once established, is nearly impossible to destroy. It becomes the foundation everything else is built on. You will face challenges. You will encounter resistance. You will have moments where it feels like nothing is working. But if your belief is solid, those moments will not break you. They will refine you. They will prove that you are serious. And on the other side of those moments, you will find that the goal was never as far away as it seemed. It was always within reach. You just needed to believe long enough to see it. So here is your assignment. Define your goal with absolute clarity. Write it down in specific, measurable terms. Then commit to saturating your mind with that goal every single day, morning and night, without exception, and watch what happens. Not next year, not next month. Within weeks, you will notice a shift. You will feel different. You will move different. You will see different, because belief changes everything. It is the architecture upon which all success is built, and it starts right now, with a decision to believe even when you cannot yet see, especially when you cannot yet see. That is when belief matters most. Chapter 3. The Death of Hesitation. Why Speed of Decision Determines Destiny. There is a poison that kills more dreams than failure ever will. It is not rejection. It is not lack of resources. It is not bad timing. It is hesitation. The inability to decide. The endless loop of maybe, what if, let me think about it. And while you think, while you weigh options, while you gather more information, someone else decides, and they win. Not because they were smarter, not because they had more advantages, but because they moved. This is the third principle, and it separates the powerful from the paralyzed. Successful people make decisions quickly, and they change those decisions slowly, if at all. Unsuccessful people make decisions slowly, and they change those decisions constantly. They are always reconsidering, always second-guessing, always waiting for the perfect moment, and the perfect moment never comes. Because perfection is not real. It is a story your fear tells you to keep you safe, to keep you small, to keep you from risking anything that matters. Let me ask you something. How many opportunities have you lost because you waited too long? How many times have you said, "I will think about it," only to watch someone else claim what could have been yours? How many ideas have died in your mind because you never gave them permission to become real? This is not a small problem. This is the problem. Because indecision is a decision. It is a decision to let circumstances choose for you. It is a decision to remain where you are. It is a decision to let fear run your life, and fear is a terrible leader. Now, I want to be clear about something. I am not telling you to be reckless. I am not telling you to make uninformed choices. I am telling you that there is a point where more information does not help. There is a point where thinking becomes stalling. And you must learn to recognize that point, because beyond that point, the only thing you are doing is avoiding the risk of being wrong. But here is the truth. Being wrong is not the problem. Staying stuck is the problem. You can recover from a wrong decision. You cannot recover time spent in limbo. Let me give you a framework for decision-making that will change everything. First, define the decision clearly. What exactly are you choosing between? Not the vague gainen, the specific options. Write them down. Make them concrete. Most people never do this, and so their decisions remain foggy, emotional, and impossible to resolve. Second, set a deadline. You will decide by this date, at this time. No extensions, no renegotiations. The deadline forces clarity. It eliminates the endless drift of someday. Third, gather the essential information. Not all the information, not every possible perspective, just enough to make an informed choice. In most cases, you already have enough. You're just afraid to trust yourself. Fourth, decide. Commit fully. Do not leave a back door open. Do not hedge. Choose one path and take it. Fifth, act immediately. Do not wait for the decision to feel comfortable. It will not. Good decisions rarely feel good in the moment. They feel risky. They feel uncertain. They feel like a leap. That is how you know they matter. Now, here is what happens when you operate this way. You build momentum. Every decision you make, every action you take compounds. You become someone who moves, someone who executes, someone who does not need permission or perfect conditions, and that identity is worth more than any single outcome. Because people who move create opportunities. People who hesitate watch opportunities pass by. Let me tell you about the hidden cost of indecision. It is not just the opportunity you miss, it is the erosion of self-trust. Every time you fail to decide, you send a message to yourself. You say, "I do not trust my judgment. I am not capable. I need someone else to tell me what to do." And over time, this becomes your identity. You become someone who waits, someone who defers, someone who always needs more time, more proof, more certainty, and certainty never comes. So you remain stuck, blaming circumstances, blaming luck, blaming the world. But the real issue is internal. You have trained yourself to be indecisive, and now, even when the path is clear, you cannot take it. This is tragic, because you are far more capable than you believe. You have made thousands of decisions in your life. Some turned out well, some did not. But you survived all of them. You adapted, you learned, you moved forward. So why do you now pretend that one more decision will break you? It will not. The only thing that will break you is refusing to decide at all. Let me tell you what the most successful people understand. They understand that most decisions are reversible. You can change course, you can pivot, you can try something else, but you cannot do any of that if you never start. So they start, they decide quickly, based on the information available, and they adjust as they go. They do not wait for certainty. They create certainty through action. This is a completely different way of operating, and it is available to you right now. You do not need to change your circumstances. You need to change your relationship with decision. Here is a simple exercise. For the next 7 days, practice making decisions immediately. Small decisions: what to eat, what to wear, what to work on first. Do not deliberate. Do not weigh options endlessly. Just choose. Choose quickly, and notice what happens. You will find that most decisions do not matter as much as you think. You will find that you are perfectly capable of choosing without agonizing, and you will begin to build a new pattern, a pattern of decisiveness, of trust, of momentum. Now let me address the voice in your head that is resisting this. The voice that says, "But what if I make the wrong choice? What if I regret it? What if I miss something better?" That voice is not protecting you, it is imprisoning you, because the cost of a wrong decision is temporary. The cost of chronic indecision is permanent. One robs you of time, one robs you of opportunity, one robs you of growth, and you cannot get any of that back. So here is the mindset shift. Stop trying to make the perfect decision. Start trying to make a decision and then make it work. This is what successful people do. They do not agonize over whether they chose correctly. They commit to making their choice correct through effort, adjustment, and persistence. They take responsibility. They do not blame the decision. They improve the execution. This is power. This is control. This is how you build a life that moves forward instead of circling endlessly in the same place. Now, there is one more thing you need to understand about decision. Other people will try to slow you down. They will tell you to be careful, to think it through, to consider all the risks, and sometimes their advice is valuable, but often it is not. Often it is their fear speaking, their regret, their own history of missed opportunities, and they project that onto you. They call it wisdom, but it is actually limitation, so you must learn to filter input. Listen to those who have done what you want to do. Ignore those who have only opinions. Especially ignore those who have never taken a significant risk themselves, because they do not understand the game you are playing. They are playing for safety. You are playing for growth. Different games, different rules. Do not let their fear infect your decisions. Here is what I want you to take from this chapter. Hesitation is not caution. It is not prudence. It is fear disguised as thoughtfulness. And it will rob you of everything you want if you let it. So starting today, you practice speed of decision. You gather the essential facts. You set a deadline. You choose, and you act. You do not look back. You do not second guess. You do not reopen the question. You move forward and you make it work. Because that is what people who win do. They decide, they commit, they execute, and they trust that they will figure out the rest along the way. This is not recklessness. This is confidence. This is maturity. This is understanding that life rewards action, not contemplation. So ask yourself right now, what decision have I been avoiding? What choice have I been postponing? What leap have I been too afraid to take? Name it, write it down, set a deadline, and decide. Not someday, not when you feel ready. Now. Because the life you want is on the other side of that decision. And every day you wait is a day you will never get back. Choose, commit, act. That is the formula. And it starts the moment you finish listening to these words. Chapter 4. The Intelligence Advantage. Why Knowledge is Worthless Until Applied. You have been lied to about education. Not intentionally, perhaps, but the lie has shaped how you think about learning, knowledge, and intelligence. The lie is this: knowledge equals power. It does not. Knowledge by itself is inert. It sits in your mind like a tool in a locked shed. Impressive perhaps, useful potentially, but completely powerless until you take it out and use it. This is the fourth principle, and it destroys one of the most common excuses people use for not succeeding. They say, "I do not know enough. I need more training. I need another degree, another certification, another course." And so they spend years accumulating knowledge, convincing themselves that once they know enough, they will be ready. But ready never comes, because knowledge without application is just sophisticated procrastination. Let me show you what I mean. There are people with multiple degrees who are broke. There are people who have read hundreds of books on business who have never started one. There are people who can recite theory perfectly but cannot execute at all. Why? Because they confused learning with doing. They confused information with transformation. Now, do not misunderstand me. Knowledge matters, learning matters, but only if it is specialized, only if it is applied, and only if it leads to action. Let me break this down. First, specialized knowledge. General knowledge is nearly worthless in the marketplace. Knowing a little about everything makes you interesting at parties. It does not make you valuable in business. Value comes from depth, not breadth, from mastery of a specific domain, from being the person who knows more about one thing than almost anyone else. This is what the market pays for. Expertise, solutions to specific problems, deep understanding that cannot be replicated by a quick internet search. So if you want to build wealth, you must become a specialist. You must choose a field, a skill, a problem area, and you must go deep. You must know more than your competition. You must see what others miss. You must be able to deliver results that others cannot. This does not require decades. It requires focus. Most people scatter their attention across a dozen interests. They dabble, they sample, they never commit to mastery, and so they remain forever mediocre at many things instead of exceptional at one thing. Do not make this mistake. Choose your area, commit to it, and become undeniable. Second, applied knowledge. This is the part most people ignore. They collect information like trophies. They attend seminars. They take notes. They highlight passages in books, and then they do nothing. The information sits there, inert, waiting to be used, but it never is, because application requires risk. It requires the possibility of failure. It requires stepping out of the comfortable role of student and into the uncomfortable role of practitioner, and most people would rather stay safe. So here is what you must do. Every piece of knowledge you acquire must be immediately tested. If you learn a new marketing strategy, you implement it within 48 hours. If you discover a new approach to productivity, you apply it the next day. If you read about a negotiation tactic, you use it in your very next conversation. This does two things. First, it proves whether the knowledge is actually useful. Theory sounds great. Reality is different. You need to know what works and what does not, and the only way to know is to try. Second, it builds a habit of execution. You train yourself to be someone who acts on information, not someone who just collects it, and that identity is worth more than any degree, because people who act create results. People who just learn create nothing. Now, let me tell you about the knowledge gap myth. You think you need to know everything before you start. You think you need to be an expert before you are qualified. You think you need to eliminate all uncertainty before you take the first step. This is false. You need to know just enough to take the next step. That is it. Just enough for the next step. You do not need a map of the entire journey. You do not need to have all the answers. You need to know what to do right now, today, in this moment. And as you take that step, the next step reveals itself. As you gain experience, you gain understanding. As you make mistakes, you learn faster than any book could teach you. This is how real expertise is built. Not in classrooms, not in theory, in the field, under pressure, through trial, error, adjustment, and repetition. So stop waiting to know enough. You already know enough to start. Start small if you must. Start imperfectly if you must. But start. Because every day you delay is a day you're not learning the lessons that actually matter, the lessons you can only learn through doing. Third, organized intelligence. Here is something most people never consider. You do not need to know everything yourself. You just need to know where to find it. Or better yet, you need to know who to ask. The most successful people are not walking encyclopedias. They are master organizers of knowledge. They build networks of specialists. They know who to call when they need legal advice, financial strategy, technical expertise, creative insight. They understand that their job is not to know everything. Their job is to orchestrate the right knowledge at the right time. This is leverage. This is intelligence. You're not limited by what you personally know. You're only limited by your ability to access and apply the knowledge that exists around you. So build your network. Connect with people who are smarter than you in specific areas. Learn to ask good questions. Learn to synthesize information from multiple sources. Learn to make decisions based on expert input, not just your own limited perspective. This is how empires are built, not by lone geniuses, by leaders who know how to mobilize collective intelligence. Now let me address something uncomfortable. Most of what you learned in traditional education is obsolete. Not wrong, necessarily, just irrelevant to the real challenges you face. School taught you to memorize, to pass tests, to follow instructions. These skills have almost no value in the real world. The real world rewards problem solving, initiative, creativity, the ability to learn quickly and adapt faster, none of which are taught in most educational systems. So if you have been waiting for someone to teach you how to succeed, you will be waiting forever. No one is coming. There is no curriculum for building wealth, no professor of life mastery. You must become your own educator. You must identify what you need to know, find the sources, learn the material and apply it immediately. This is self-directed education, and it is the only kind that matters. Here is how you do it. First, identify the gap. What is standing between you and your goal? What skill, knowledge, or capability are you missing? Be specific. I need to understand digital marketing. I need to learn how to read financial statements. I need to master public speaking. Whatever it is, name it clearly. Second, find the fastest path to competence. Not mastery, competence. You do not need to be the world's best. You just need to be good enough to move forward. Find the book, the course, the mentor, the resource that will get you there fastest. Ignore everything else. Focus on speed and application, not comprehension and perfection. Third, implement immediately. Do not finish the entire course before you start using what you learned. Use it as you learn it. Apply each lesson in real time. This accelerates learning exponentially because you are not just absorbing theory, you are integrating it into your reality. Fourth, iterate. Your first attempt will be clumsy. That is fine. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to improve. Each cycle of application teaches you something new. Each mistake reveals a gap. Fill that gap, try again, and keep moving. This is how you build real skill, not through study, through practice. Now, here is the final piece. Knowledge has a shelf life. What is true today may be obsolete tomorrow. Industries change, technologies evolve. Strategies that worked 5 years ago fail today. So you cannot just learn once and coast. You must commit to continuous learning, not as a hobby, as a necessity. Set aside time every single day to upgrade your knowledge. Read, listen, watch. Learn from those who are ahead of you. Study those who are winning in your field. Reverse engineer their success. This is not optional. This is survival. Because the moment you stop learning, you start dying. Your skills decay, your relevance fades, your value diminishes, and someone younger, hungrier, and more informed takes your place. Do not let that happen. Stay sharp, stay curious, stay committed to being better tomorrow than you are today. So here is your assignment. Identify one skill that would dramatically accelerate your progress. One area of knowledge that, if mastered, would unlock the next level. Find the best resource on that topic. Not the most popular, the best. The one that is practical, actionable, and results-focused. Then commit to 30 days of focused study and application. 30 minutes a day of learning, followed immediately by 30 minutes of implementation. Do this without fail, and watch what happens. You will not become an expert in 30 days, but you will become competent, and competence is enough to create momentum. Momentum is enough to create results, and results are enough to build confidence, which leads to more learning, more action, more growth. This is the cycle of success, and it begins the moment you stop collecting knowledge and start applying it. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. So stop learning for the sake of learning. Start learning for the sake of doing, and everything changes. Chapter 5. The Multiplication Effect. Why no one succeeds alone. There is a dangerous myth embedded in our culture. The myth of the self-made individual, the lone genius, the entrepreneur who built an empire from nothing by themselves through sheer force of will. This story is everywhere, and it is almost entirely false. Not because these people did not work hard, not because they did not have vision or talent, but because no one, and I mean no one, achieves anything significant alone. This is the fifth principle, and it is perhaps the most overlooked. Success is not a solo sport. It is a team effort, and the quality of your team determines the altitude of your achievement. Let me explain what I mean by team. I am not just talking about employees or business partners, though they matter. I am talking about something deeper, something more strategic. I am talking about your mastermind alliance. The small group of people you surround yourself with who elevate your thinking, challenge your assumptions, and multiply your capabilities. This is not networking. This is not collecting contacts. This is deliberate strategic alliance with individuals whose strengths complement yours, whose vision aligns with yours, and whose commitment matches yours. And when this alliance is formed correctly, something extraordinary happens. 1 + 1 no longer equals 2, it equals 10 or 100. Because minds in harmony create a compounding effect that defies simple math. Ideas spark, solutions emerge, opportunities appear, not because of magic, but because multiple perspectives, applied to the same problem, reveal angles that a single mind could never see. Now, most people do not understand this. They think success is about competition, about being better than others, about hoarding knowledge and resources so they isolate themselves, they guard their ideas, they work in secret, and they struggle, because they are trying to carry the entire weight of their ambition on their own shoulders, and that weight is too much. No matter how strong you are, no matter how brilliant you are, there are limits to what one person can know, see, and do. But there are no limits to what a well-organized group can accomplish. This is the multiplication effect, and it is available to you right now, but you must build it intentionally. Here is how. First, you must choose your alliance carefully. Not everyone belongs in your mastermind. In fact, most people do not. Your alliance must consist of people who are already operating at a high level, people who have achieved something significant, people who think differently than you but share your values and your hunger for growth. You're not looking for friends, you're not looking for yes men, you're looking for equals or superiors who will push you, challenge you, and hold you accountable. People who will tell you the truth even when it is uncomfortable. People who will not let you settle. People who expect excellence because they demand it of themselves. This is critical, because the wrong people in your inner circle will destroy you. They will drain your energy. They will question your vision. They will pull you back toward mediocrity every time you try to rise. So you must be ruthless in your selection, not cruel, but discerning. You cannot afford to carry dead weight, not at this level. Second, you must meet with your alliance regularly. Consistency is everything. A mastermind group that meets once a year is not a mastermind. It is a reunion. You need weekly contact at minimum, monthly if the group is structured correctly. But there must be rhythm. There must be accountability. There must be momentum. Each meeting should have a purpose. You bring problems to the table. You share progress. You ask for input. You challenge each other. You hold each other to commitments made in previous meetings. This is not casual conversation. This is strategic collaboration. And over time, it becomes one of the most valuable assets you have. Third, you must give as much as you take. This is where most people fail. They approach relationships transactionally. They want to extract value. They want mentorship, advice, connections, opportunities, but they bring nothing to the table. This does not work. A true mastermind is built on reciprocity. You contribute your strengths. You share your insights. You open your network. You give generously without keeping score. And in doing so, you create a culture of abundance within the group. Everyone rises. Everyone wins. Because the goal is not to outcompete each other. The goal is to elevate the entire group. Now, let me tell you what happens when you operate inside a powerful mastermind. Your thinking expands. When you are alone, you're limited by your own experience, your own biases, your own blind spots. But when you bring a problem to a group of sharp minds, those limitations disappear. Someone sees the solution you missed. Someone knows the person you need to meet. Someone has already solved the problem you are facing. And suddenly, what felt impossible becomes obvious. This is the power of collective intelligence. It is not that the group does the work for you. It is that the group accelerates your progress by an order of magnitude. You avoid mistakes. You seize opportunities faster. You make better decisions, all because you are no longer operating in isolation. But there is something even more powerful. A mastermind creates accountability. When you declare your goals to people you respect, people who will check in on you, people who expect you to deliver, everything changes. You cannot hide. You cannot make excuses. You cannot pretend you're trying when you're not, because they will know, and they will call you on it, not to shame you, but to remind you of what you said you wanted, to remind you of who you said you were becoming. This external pressure, when combined with internal desire, is unstoppable. It keeps you moving when motivation fades. It keeps you honest when it would be easier to lie. It keeps you on the path when distractions tempt you away. This is why people with accountability groups succeed at exponentially higher rates than those who work alone. It is not because they are more talented. It is because they have structure, support, and standards. Now let me address a question you might be asking. What if I do not know anyone operating at that level? What if I do not have access to successful people? What if I am starting from zero? Here is the truth. You may not have access yet, but you can create it. Access is not given, it is earned. You earn it by becoming someone worth knowing, by developing skills that are valuable, by creating results that are undeniable, by showing up with energy, competence, and respect. Successful people are not looking for fans, they are looking for peers. So if you want to join their circle, you must rise to their level, not in achievement necessarily, though that helps, but in mindset, in work ethic, in commitment to growth. When you operate at that frequency, you will attract people who match it. This is not mystical. This is observable reality. Like attracts like. Winners connect with winners. Mediocre people surround themselves with mediocrity. So if you want to change your circle, you must first change yourself. You must become the kind of person that high performers want to be around. Here is how you do that. First, become excellent at something specific. Develop a skill that is valuable. Solve a problem that matters, create something that works. This gives you credibility. It gives you something to contribute. Second, show up where high performers gather, not to network, to participate, to learn, to add value. Join mastermind groups, even paid ones. Attend high-level conferences. Engage in communities where serious people discuss serious topics. And when you show up, do not try to take. Try to give. Share insights, ask intelligent questions, help others solve problems, be useful. Over time, people will notice. They will remember your name. They will want to connect, and doors will open. Third, invest in relationships intentionally. When you meet someone valuable, follow up. Not with a sales pitch, with genuine interest. Learn about their work. Find ways to support them. Introduce them to people they should know. Send them resources that might help. Become someone they are glad to know, and over time, some of these connections will deepen into real relationships, into alliances, into your mastermind. But this takes time. You cannot force it. You cannot fake it. You must earn it through consistent, genuine, valuable interaction. Now here is something most people never consider. Your mastermind does not have to be physical. In fact, some of the most powerful alliances exist virtually. You can have members in different cities, different countries, different time zones. What matters is not proximity. What matters is alignment, shared vision, mutual respect, commitment to growth. If those elements are present, the format does not matter. You can meet via video call. You can communicate via messaging. You can collaborate asynchronously. The technology exists, use it. Do not let geography limit your access to greatness. Now, let me tell you what your mastermind is not. It is not a support group for complainers. It is not a social club. It is not a place to vent about problems without taking action. If your group devolves into any of these, disband it immediately, because it is doing more harm than good. A true mastermind is focused, disciplined, and results-oriented. Everyone comes prepared. Everyone has made progress since the last meeting. Everyone is committed to pushing forward, not just talking about it. If someone consistently shows up without progress, without effort, without results, they do not belong, and you must have the courage to address that. Because one weak link can poison the entire group. Standards matter. Protect them. So here is your assignment. Identify 3 to 5 people you want in your mastermind. They do not have to say yes yet. Just identify them. Who is already operating at the level you are moving toward? Who has skills or experience that complement yours? Who shares your values and your hunger? Write their names down, then reach out, not with a formal invitation, just with a conversation. Learn about their goals, share yours, see if there is alignment, and if there is, propose a trial. A few months of regular meetings to see if the chemistry works. No long-term commitment, just an experiment. Most people will say yes to an experiment, and if the value is real, the group will naturally continue. If it is not, you part ways and try again with different people. There is no failure here, only learning, only refinement, only growth toward the alliance that will change everything. Because here is the final truth. The ceiling of your success is determined by the quality of the minds around you. Surround yourself with small thinkers, and you will think small. Surround yourself with giants, and you will become one. This is not metaphor. This is mechanism. So choose wisely. Build intentionally. And watch as your capabilities multiply beyond anything you thought possible. You are not meant to do this alone. No one is. The question is, who will you bring with you? Chapter 6. The Workshop of the Mind. Where ideas become fortunes. Everything you see around you began as nothing, a blank space, an absence. And then someone imagined something different. They saw what was not there. They envisioned what could be, and they refused to let that vision die. This is the 6th principle, and it is perhaps the most misunderstood force in wealth creation. Imagination. Not the childish fantasy most people think of, not daydreaming or wishful thinking, but the deliberate, focused, creative power that transforms the invisible into the visible, that turns thoughts into things, that converts desire into reality. Your imagination is the workshop where all plans are created, where all opportunities are discovered, where all solutions are born, and yet, most people never use it. They let it atrophy. They dismiss it as impractical. They tell themselves to be realistic, to stay grounded, to stop dreaming. And in doing so, they sentence themselves to a life of limitation. Because reality is not fixed. Reality is negotiable, and imagination is the tool you use to negotiate it. Let me explain the 2 types of imagination you possess. First, there is synthetic imagination. This is the ability to arrange old concepts, ideas, and information into new combinations. You take what already exists and you recombine it in novel ways. Most innovation happens here. Most business ideas happen here. You're not creating something from nothing. You're seeing connections others miss. You're asking, what if we combined this with that? What if we applied this principle to that industry? What if we served this market in that way? Synthetic imagination is pattern recognition plus creativity. It is looking at the pieces on the board and seeing moves no one else sees. This is a trainable skill. You develop it by exposing yourself to diverse fields, by studying industries outside your own, by reading widely, by asking questions constantly. The more raw material you feed your mind, the more combinations it can create, the more connections it can make. This is why narrow specialists often struggle with innovation. They know one thing deeply, but they have no cross-pollination, no outside perspective, no way to see their field differently. But when you study multiple disciplines, when you understand psychology and technology and history and design, suddenly you see opportunities everywhere. You see gaps in the market, you see inefficiencies in systems, you see needs that are not being met, and your synthetic imagination goes to work arranging solutions. This is how most fortunes are made, not through invention of something entirely new, but through recombination of what already exists in a way that creates more value. Now, the second type of imagination is even more powerful, creative imagination. This is the faculty through which truly original ideas emerge, ideas that have never existed before. breakthroughs that change industries, visions that reshape culture. This type of imagination operates differently. It does not arrange, it receives. It taps into something beyond logic, beyond conscious thought. Call it intuition, call it inspiration, call it whatever you want. But every person who has created something revolutionary will tell you the same story. The idea came to them. It appeared fully formed. It felt like a download from somewhere beyond themselves. This is creative imagination at work, and it only operates when certain conditions are met. First, your mind must be focused intensely on a specific problem or desire. You cannot access creative imagination casually. It requires obsession. It requires that you saturate your consciousness with the question until your subconscious has no choice but to work on it. Second, your mind must be calm. Creative ideas rarely come when you are forcing them. They come in the shower, during a walk, in the moments between sleep and waking. When the conscious mind relaxes, the subconscious delivers. This is why rest is not laziness, it is strategy. Your most valuable insights will come when you create space for them. Third, you must act on the ideas immediately. Creative imagination is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. But if you ignore the ideas it gives you, if you dismiss them as impractical or impossible, the flow stops. You train your subconscious that its contributions are not valued, and it stops contributing. But when you honor the ideas, when you test them, when you take them seriously, more ideas come. Better ideas. Bigger ideas. This is how you develop a reputation, even with yourself, as someone who executes on inspiration. And that reputation creates momentum. Now here is what most people do wrong. They wait for inspiration. They sit around hoping a brilliant idea will strike, and when it does not, they conclude they are not creative. This is backwards. You do not wait for imagination to activate. You activate it deliberately. Here is how. First, define the problem clearly. What exactly are you trying to solve? What outcome are you trying to create? Write it down in specific terms. Your imagination needs a target. Give it one. Second, gather information. Feed your mind everything relevant to the problem. Read. Research. Study how others have approached similar challenges. This is not copying. This is priming. You're loading your subconscious with raw material. Third, focus intensely. Spend dedicated time thinking about the problem. Not distractedly, not while multitasking, but with full attention. Ask yourself questions. What if this constraint did not exist? What would the ideal solution look like? What am I assuming that might not be true? Push your thinking. Challenge your assumptions. Force your mind to explore territory it normally avoids. Fourth, release. After intense focus, let it go. Do something completely different. Exercise. Sleep. Engage in a creative hobby. Give your conscious mind a break, and watch what happens. Within hours, or sometimes days, ideas will surface. Unexpected solutions, creative approaches, connections you did not see before. This is your imagination delivering. Now, here is something critical. Most breakthrough ideas sound ridiculous at first. They feel impossible, they seem impractical, and this is where most people kill them. They judge too quickly. They apply logic before the idea is fully formed, and they dismiss it. Do not make this mistake. When an idea emerges, especially from creative imagination, your job is not to judge. Your job is to capture it. Write it down, sketch it out, voice record it. Whatever method works, just get it out of your head and into a form you can revisit. Then, and only then, do you evaluate. But even in evaluation, be careful. Do not ask, is this realistic? Ask, how could this be made realistic? Do not ask, will this work? Ask what would need to be true for this to work. This shift in questioning changes everything, because it keeps possibility alive. It forces you to think creatively about implementation, not just about the idea itself, and often, in the process of figuring out how, you stumble onto something even better than the original concept. Now let me tell you about the enemies of imagination. Fear is the first. Fear of looking foolish, fear of being wrong, fear of wasting time on an idea that does not pan out. This fear keeps your imagination locked in a cage. It prevents you from exploring the edges, from taking mental risks, from venturing into uncharted territory, and that is exactly where the valuable ideas live. in the uncharted territory, so you must cultivate courage. Not physical courage, though that helps too. Mental courage. The courage to think thoughts others would dismiss, to explore ideas others would mock, to believe in possibilities others cannot see. This is not arrogance. This is faith in your own creative capacity. The second enemy is conformity, the pressure to think like everyone else, to stay within acceptable boundaries, to colour inside the lines. This pressure is everywhere, in your education, in your workplace, in your social circles. Everyone wants you to be reasonable, to be practical, to be like them. But imagination requires you to break from the herd, to think independently, to question what everyone accepts as true. This is uncomfortable. It is lonely sometimes, but it is necessary. Because if you think like everyone else, you will get the same results as everyone else. And if everyone else is struggling, that is not where you want to be. So you must give yourself permission to be different, to explore strange ideas, to ask weird questions, to see the world through a lens no one else is using. This is not rebellion for its own sake. This is strategic differentiation. This is how you find opportunities others miss. The third enemy is neglect. Most people simply do not exercise their imagination. They live on autopilot. They follow routines. They think the same thoughts year after year, and their imagination withers. Like any faculty, imagination strengthens with use and weakens with disuse. So if you want to harness its power, you must use it daily. Not just for business problems, for everything. Imagine different ways to structure your day. Imagine conversations before they happen. Imagine solutions to small problems. Train your mind to think creatively about everything. And over time, this becomes your default mode. You become someone who sees possibilities everywhere, who finds solutions where others see only obstacles, who creates opportunities from thin air. This is mastery, and it is available to anyone willing to develop it. Now let me give you a specific exercise. Every morning before you start your work, spend 10 minutes with a blank page. Write this question at the top. What opportunity am I not seeing? Then, without filtering, without judging, write whatever comes to mind. Ideas for new products, different approaches to old problems, people you should connect with, markets you should explore, strategies you should test. Write it all down. Do not evaluate, do not dismiss, just capture. Do this every single day for 30 days and watch what happens. You will generate hundreds of ideas. Most will be useless, some will be interesting, and a few will be transformative. Those few are worth more than a year of conventional thinking, because one breakthrough idea can change everything. One creative solution can unlock a fortune. One moment of genuine inspiration can redirect your entire trajectory. This is the power of imagination. It is not a luxury. It is not a bonus feature. It is the fundamental mechanism of wealth creation. Because wealth is not found. It is not inherited, at least not by most people. It is created, and creation happens in the imagination first, always. Before the business exists, someone imagined it. Before the product was built, someone envisioned it. Before the fortune was made, someone saw it in their mind. So if you want to create wealth, you must first create it mentally. You must see it so clearly that it feels real. You must imagine the details, the business, the customers, the revenue, the impact, all of it. And then you must protect that vision. You must refuse to let doubt corrupt it. You must refuse to let others diminish it. You must hold it in your mind with absolute certainty until the physical world catches up. This is not delusion. This is blueprint creation. And it is how every significant achievement begins. So here is your assignment. Right now, before you move on, pause this audiobook, get a piece of paper, and write down one impossible thing. One idea that feels too big, too ambitious, too unrealistic. The thing you want but have not let yourself seriously consider. Write it down, in detail. Then ask yourself, what would need to be true for this to be possible? Write that down too. And then commit to spending 10 minutes every day for the next week just imagining it, seeing it, feeling it, adding details, making it more real in your mind. Do not worry about how yet. Just focus on what, and watch what your imagination delivers, because it will deliver. It always does. When you give it a clear target and consistent attention, your imagination is the most powerful tool you possess. Use it. Chapter 7, The Blueprint. Why plans without paper are just wishes. Ideas without execution are hallucinations. Dreams without plans are fantasies. And goals without written detail are nothing more than wishes. This is the 7th principle, and it separates those who talk about success from those who create it. You must have a plan, not a vague intention, not a general direction, not a someday maybe dream floating in your head. A written, detailed, step-by-step plan, and you must follow that plan with relentless consistency. Now here is what most people do. They set a goal, they feel excited about it, they tell their friends, they imagine the end result, and then they wait for inspiration to strike, for the path to reveal itself, for circumstances to align, and nothing happens, because the universe does not respond to wishes. It responds to organized effort, to deliberate action, to plans that are specific enough to execute. Let me tell you why most plans fail. They fail because they are not really plans. They are intentions disguised as plans. Someone says, I'm going to start a business. Okay? What business? When? With what resources? What is step 1? What is step 2? Silence. Because they have not actually planned anything. They have simply declared a desire, and desire without a roadmap leads nowhere. So here is what a real plan looks like. It is written down, every word, every detail, every step. If it is not on paper, it does not exist. Because your memory is unreliable, your motivation fluctuates, your clarity comes and goes, but a written plan is permanent. It is there when you forget. It is there when you doubt. It is there when you want to quit. It holds you accountable to the vision you had in your moment of greatest clarity. Now, here is how you build a plan that works. First, define the end goal with precision. Not, I want to be wealthy. But I will have $1 million in net worth by December 31st, 2027. Not, I want to start a business, but I will launch a software service generating $10,000 per month in revenue by June 30th, 2026. Specificity matters, because vague goals produce vague plans, and vague plans produce no results. Second, work backwards from the goal. If you want $1 million in 2 years, what has to be true 6 months before that deadline? What has to be true 1 year before? What has to happen this quarter, this month, this week? Break the enormous goal into smaller milestones. Each milestone should be achievable, measurable, and time-bound. This is how you make the impossible manageable. You do not climb a mountain in one leap. You climb it one step at a time, but you need to know what those steps are before you begin. Third, identify every action required, every single one. If you are starting a business, you need a product, customers, a pricing model, a website, a payment system, marketing, legal structure, accounting. List it all. Do not skip the small things. Do not assume you will figure it out later. Later never comes. You figure it out now, on paper, so that when you are in motion, you know exactly what to do next. Fourth, assign deadlines to every action. Not flexible deadlines, real ones. The kind that create urgency. The kind that make you uncomfortable. If a task has no deadline, it will never get done. There will always be something more urgent, so you must create urgency artificially. You must force yourself to move at a pace that feels too fast, because fast execution compounds, slow execution stagnates. Fifth, identify the obstacles. What could go wrong? What will try to stop you? What resources do you lack? What skills do you need to develop? Write it all down, not to discourage yourself, but to prepare. Because if you know the obstacles in advance, you can plan around them. You can build contingencies. You can acquire the skills before you need them. This is the difference between reacting and leading. Most people react to problems as they arise. Leaders anticipate problems and solve them before they become critical. Sixth, decide what you are willing to sacrifice. This is the part no one talks about. Every goal has a cost: time, comfort, relationships, leisure. Something must be given up to make room for the new thing you are building, and if you do not decide in advance what that is, you will fail. Because when the pressure comes, when the sacrifice is required, you will hesitate, you will negotiate, you will tell yourself it is too much. But if you decided beforehand, if you wrote it down and committed to it, there is no negotiation. You already agreed to the price. Now you just pay it. This is integrity. This is discipline. This is what separates finishers from starters. Now here is something most people never consider. Your first plan will be wrong. Not completely wrong, but definitely incomplete. You will discover things you did not anticipate, variables you did not account for, obstacles you did not see coming. This is normal. This is expected, and this is why you must treat your plan as a living document. You revise it, you update it, you adapt as you learn, but you never abandon it. You never throw it out and start wandering aimlessly. You adjust the route while keeping the destination fixed. This is strategic flexibility. It is not the same as quitting. Quitting is giving up on the goal. Flexibility is changing the method while maintaining the objective. Most people confuse the two. They hit an obstacle and they interpret it as a sign to stop, but an obstacle is not a stop sign. It is a puzzle, and your job is to solve it. Sometimes the solution is a detour, sometimes it is a delay, sometimes it is a completely different approach. But the goal remains, the commitment remains, only the tactics change. Now, let me tell you about the power of the written word. There is something almost mystical about writing your plan down. The act of putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard forces clarity. It turns fuzzy thoughts into concrete language, and in doing so, it makes the invisible visible. Your subconscious mind pays attention to what you write. It takes it seriously in a way that it does not take spoken words or fleeting thoughts. When you write down a plan, you're making a contract with yourself, a formal agreement, and that agreement carries weight. It creates psychological pressure to follow through, not because someone else is watching, but because you wrote it down, you declared it, you made it real, and now you must honor it. This is why successful people are obsessive about documentation. They keep journals, they write goals daily, they track progress meticulously. Not because they enjoy paperwork, but because they understand that documentation creates accountability, and accountability creates results. So if you are serious about your goal, you will document everything. Your plan, your progress, your obstacles, your wins, your failures, all of it. And you will review this documentation regularly, daily if possible, weekly at minimum. Because regular review keeps the goal alive, it keeps it front of mind, it prevents drift. Most people set a goal in January and forget about it by February, not because they do not care, but because life happens, distractions multiply, urgency shifts to other things, and the goal fades into the background. But when you review your plan every single day, this cannot happen. The goal stays primary, it stays urgent, it stays real, and you stay on track. Now, here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people do not want to plan. They want to wing it. They want to trust their intuition. They want to stay flexible and spontaneous, and they call this freedom. But it is not freedom. It is chaos disguised as freedom. Real freedom comes from structure, from knowing exactly what you're doing and why, from having a plan that eliminates decision fatigue. Because when you have a plan, you do not waste energy deciding what to do next. You already know. You just execute. This is efficiency. This is power. This is how you accomplish in 1 year what most people fail to accomplish in 10. Not because you work harder, but because you work with precision. Every action is aligned. Every effort is compounding. Nothing is wasted. Let me give you an example. 2 people decide to build a house. The first person starts digging without a blueprint. They figure they will just make it up as they go. They dig here, pour concrete there, frame some walls, realize they are in the wrong place, tear it down, start over. Years pass. The house is still not finished. The second person spends weeks creating detailed blueprints. They plan every room, every measurement, every material. They get permits. They hire the right contractors. They order materials in advance, and then they build. Systematically, efficiently, step by step. The house is finished in 6 months. Same goal. Drastically different outcomes. Why? One had a plan, one did not. Your life works the same way. You can wander and hope, or you can plan and execute and succeed. The choice is yours, but understand this. Wishing will not build your fortune. Planning will. So here is your assignment. Take the goal you identified in the last chapter, the impossible thing you wrote down, and now you build a plan for it. A real plan. Step 1. Write the goal at the top of a page. Specific, measurable, time-bound. Step 2. Work backwards. What has to be true 6 months before you achieve it? 3 months before? 1 month before? This week? Write down the milestones. Step 3. Under each milestone, list every action required to reach it. Be exhaustive. Leave nothing out. Step 4. Assign a deadline to each action. Make them aggressive. Make them uncomfortable. Make them real. Step 5. Identify the obstacles. What will try to stop you? How will you overcome each one? Step 6. Decide the sacrifice. What are you giving up to make this happen? Write it down. Commit to it. Step 7. Schedule a weekly review. Every Sunday evening or whatever day works for you, you will review this plan. You will check your progress. You will adjust as needed. You will recommit. This process should take you 2 to 3 hours. Do not rush it. This is the most important work you will do. Because a good plan, executed consistently, will create results that seem miraculous to others. But you will know the truth. It was not a miracle. It was a plan. And plans, when honored, always work. So write it down. Make it real. And then watch as the universe begins to conspire in your favor. Not because of magic, but because you finally gave it something clear to respond to. A blueprint, a map, a plan. And that changes everything. Chapter 8. The Unyielding Force. Why persistence conquers all resistance. There is a moment in every worthy pursuit when everything falls apart. The plan hits a wall, the money runs out, the support disappears, the results stop coming, and you're left standing alone, exhausted, questioning everything. This is the moment that determines your destiny. Not the moment you started, not the moment you had the brilliant idea, not the moment you felt motivated and unstoppable. This moment, the moment when continuing feels impossible. And this is the 8th principle, persistence, the unwillingness to quit. Regardless of opposition, regardless of circumstances, regardless of how long it takes. This is the quality that separates those who succeed from the vast majority who do not. Because talent is common, intelligence is common. Good ideas are common, but persistence is rare. Most people quit at the first real obstacle. They hit resistance and they interpret it as a sign that they are on the wrong path. They encounter failure and they conclude they are not meant to succeed. They face criticism and they retreat to safety. This is human nature. We are wired to avoid pain, to seek comfort, to conserve energy. But success is not natural. It is unnatural. It requires you to override every instinct that tells you to stop. And that override is called persistence. Now here is what you must understand about persistence. It is not stubbornness. It is not blind determination. It is not refusing to adapt or learn. Persistence is intelligent. It is flexible in method but unwavering and objective. It adjusts the approach while maintaining the goal. It learns from failure without being defeated by it. It sees obstacles as feedback, not as barriers. This distinction is critical, because many people confuse persistence with rigidity. They cling to a failing strategy because they think that is what persistence means. But that is not persistence. That is ego. True persistence is willing to change everything except the destination. It will try 1,000 different paths if necessary. It will pivot, adapt, and reinvent. But it will not abandon the mission. Let me tell you why most people lack persistence. It is not because they are weak. It is because they have not made a definite decision. Remember what we discussed in Chapter 3. Decision is the starting point. But decision alone is not enough. Decision must be reinforced by persistence. And persistence is only possible when the decision is absolute. If there is any doubt in your mind, any reservation, any backup plan waiting in the wings, you will quit. You will quit the moment things get hard. Because your mind will offer you an escape. It will say, this is not working, maybe you should try something else. And you will take that escape because you left the door open. But when your decision is final, when you have burned the boats, when there is no plan B, persistence becomes inevitable. Not easy, but inevitable. Because you have no other choice. You must find a way or make a way. There is no alternative. Now let me tell you about the enemies of persistence. The first enemy is failure. Not the event of failure itself, but the interpretation of it. Most people experience failure and they conclude it is permanent. They fail once and they believe they are a failure. They try something and it does not work and they assume it will never work. This is a catastrophic misunderstanding. Failure is not an identity. It is feedback. It is data. It is information about what does not work so you can try something that does. Every successful person has failed more times than unsuccessful people have even tried. The difference is not in the failure. The difference is in the response to failure. Unsuccessful people quit. Successful people adjust. They ask, what did I learn? What can I do differently? What assumption was wrong? And then they try again. This is persistence, not the absence of failure, but the refusal to be stopped by it. The second enemy is time. People start something with energy and enthusiasm, but when results do not come quickly, they lose faith. They think, if it was going to work, it would have worked by now. So they quit, and often they quit right before the breakthrough, right before the compounding begins, right before all the effort starts to pay off. This is the cruelest irony of success. The results always take longer than you expect. The progress is invisible for far longer than it is visible. You plant seeds and you see nothing for weeks. You work in obscurity and no one notices. You push and strain and sacrifice and it feels like nothing is happening. And then suddenly everything happens. The business takes off. The opportunity appears. The recognition comes. But it only comes to those who persisted through the invisible phase. Those who kept working when there was no evidence that working mattered. Those who kept believing when belief seemed foolish. This is the test. And most people fail it, not because they cannot persist, but because they do not understand that delay is not denial. Slow is not the same as no. Invisible progress is still progress. And if you quit before the breakthrough, you trade temporary discomfort for permanent regret. The third enemy is criticism. The moment you attempt something significant, people will tell you it cannot be done. They will list all the reasons why you will fail. They will remind you of everyone else who tried and did not succeed. They will question your judgment, your abilities, your sanity. And if you listen to them, if you let their doubt become your doubt, you will quit. Because criticism is contagious. It spreads. It infects your thinking. It makes you second-guess everything. So you must develop immunity, not arrogance, not dismissiveness, but immunity. You must learn to separate useful feedback from destructive negativity. Useful feedback helps you improve. It points out blind spots. It offers perspective you need. Destructive negativity is simply fear projected onto you. It is someone else's limitation being presented as universal truth, and you must reject it completely, not with anger, not with defensiveness, but with quiet confidence. You must know deep in your core that their opinion is irrelevant, that their doubt does not define your potential, that their failure does not predict your outcome. This is mental fortitude, and it is non-negotiable, because the path to success is lined with critics, and if you stop to argue with each one, you will never reach your destination. Now, let me tell you how to build persistence. First, you must have a motive strong enough to withstand pressure. Weak motives produce weak persistence. If you want something casually, you will quit casually. But if you want something desperately, if it is tied to your identity, your values, your deepest desires, you will not quit. You cannot, because quitting would mean betraying yourself. So your first task is to connect your goal to something bigger than comfort, to something that matters more than ease, to something worth suffering for. When you have that connection, persistence becomes automatic. Second, you must have a definite plan. We covered this in Chapter 7, but it is worth repeating. Vague plans produce vague effort. Specific plans produce sustained effort. Because when you know exactly what to do next, you can keep moving even when motivation fades. You do not need to feel inspired. You just need to follow the plan. This is discipline. And discipline is what carries you when persistence feels impossible. Third, you must close your mind to negative influence. This does not mean living in denial. This does not mean ignoring problems. This means being selective about what you allow into your consciousness. If someone is negative, you limit your exposure to them. If a news source fills you with anxiety, you stop consuming it. If a thought pattern is destructive, you interrupt it. You guard your mental state like a fortress, because your mental state determines your persistence, and your persistence determines your results. Fourth, You must form an alliance with those who encourage you. This goes back to Chapter 5. Your mastermind is not just for strategy, it is for support. When you want to quit, they remind you why you started. When you doubt yourself, they remind you of your capabilities. When you feel alone, they remind you that you are not. This is why persistence is easier in groups than in isolation. Not because groups make the work easier, but because they make the burden lighter. Fifth, you must develop the habit of persistence. Like any habit, persistence strengthens with practice. So you practice it daily. You set a small goal and you hit it. No matter what, you commit to a daily action and you execute it. Without exception, you build a streak. And the streak becomes proof. Proof that you are someone who finishes, someone who follows through, someone who does not quit, and that identity becomes self-reinforcing. You persist because you are someone who persists, not because you feel like it, but because that is who you are. Now let me give you a warning. There will be moments when persistence feels pointless, when the goal feels too far away, when the effort feels too great, when the results feel too small, and in those moments your mind will offer you a deal. It will say you can quit and no one will blame you. You tried. You gave it your best. It just was not meant to be. And that voice will sound reasonable. It will sound wise. It will sound like self-care. But it is not. It is surrender. And surrender guarantees permanent defeat. So in those moments, you do not make big decisions. You do not evaluate whether to continue. You just take the next step, just one. You do not think about tomorrow. You do not worry about next month. You just do what is in front of you, and then you do the next thing, and the next, and before you realize it, the moment has passed. The doubt has faded, and you are still moving. This is how you outlast resistance, not through heroic effort, but through small, unglamorous, relentless forward motion, one step at a time, one day at a time, until the breakthrough comes, and it always comes. Not always when you expect it, not always in the form you imagined, but it comes. To those who persist, to those who refuse to quit, to those who understand that giving up is the only guaranteed failure. So here is your assignment. Think about something you quit, something you walked away from because it was too hard, too slow, too uncertain, and ask yourself, what would have happened if I had persisted? Not to punish yourself, but to learn. Because that lesson will fuel your persistence going forward. Then commit to one thing you will not quit. No matter what, one goal, one project, one pursuit that you will see through to completion. Write it down, declare it, and then protect it. From doubt, from criticism, from your own wavering commitment. Because persistence is not a feeling, it is a decision you make once and honor forever, until the thing is done. And when it is done, when you have persisted through every obstacle and reached your goal, something changes. You become someone new. Someone who knows, beyond doubt, that you can achieve whatever you commit to, because you did it once, and you can do it again. This is the gift of persistence, not just the achievement, but the transformation, the forging of a character that cannot be broken. A will that cannot be bent, a force that cannot be stopped. This is who you are becoming. Starting now. Chapter 9. The Command Center. Programming your subconscious for wealth. There is a force inside you that is working right now. It does not rest. It does not sleep. It does not take breaks or vacations. It is operating every second of every day, processing millions of pieces of information, making thousands of decisions, directing your body, your emotions, your behaviors, and most people never consciously engage with it. They let it run on autopilot, running old programs, old beliefs, old instructions installed years ago by people who had no idea what they were doing. This force is your subconscious mind, and this is the 9th principle. If you want to create wealth, if you want to achieve anything significant, you must learn to program your subconscious deliberately. Because your subconscious does not care what you want consciously. It only executes the instructions it has been given, and right now, most of those instructions are working against you. Let me explain how this works. Your conscious mind is what you are aware of. Your thoughts, your decisions, your intentions. It is logical, analytical, and voluntary. You control it, at least in theory. But your conscious mind is weak. It represents only a tiny fraction of your total mental capacity. Maybe 5%, maybe 10%. The rest, the vast majority of your mental processing, happens below the surface, in the subconscious. And the subconscious is far more powerful than the conscious mind. It controls your habits, your automatic responses, your emotional reactions, your beliefs about what is possible. It filters what you see and what you ignore. It determines what opportunities you notice and what dangers you avoid. It is the operating system running your entire life. And here is the problem. Most people program their subconscious by accident, through repetition of thought, through emotional experiences, through the influence of parents, teachers, peers, media. All of it poured into the subconscious during childhood, during moments of stress, during periods of intense emotion, and it became the blueprint, the default setting, the invisible hand guiding every decision. So if you grew up hearing that money is scarce, your subconscious believes money is scarce. If you were taught that rich people are greedy, your subconscious will resist wealth. If you experience failure repeatedly, your subconscious expects failure. And no matter how much you want to succeed consciously, your subconscious will sabotage you, not maliciously. It is just following its programming. It is protecting you from the danger it was taught to fear, even if that danger is imaginary, even if that protection is actually limitation. This is why affirmations fail for most people. They say positive things consciously while their subconscious screams the opposite. And the subconscious always wins, because the subconscious controls behavior, and behavior creates results. So if you want different results, you must reprogram the subconscious. You must install new instructions, new beliefs, new expectations, and you must do it deliberately, systematically, relentlessly. Here is how. First, you must understand the language of the subconscious. It does not respond to logic. It does not care about reason. It responds to emotion and repetition. Intense emotion combined with repetition is the key that unlocks the subconscious. This is why traumatic events shape us so deeply. One moment of intense fear can install a belief that lasts a lifetime. One moment of shame can create a pattern that repeats for decades. The emotion etches the experience into the subconscious, and repetition reinforces it. But you can use this mechanism intentionally. You can create intense positive emotion around your goals, and you can repeat that emotion daily until the new belief becomes automatic. This is not wishful thinking. This is neurological reprogramming. Here is the technique. Every morning, immediately upon waking, before you check your phone, before you do anything else, you close your eyes. And you visualize your goal, not casually, not vaguely, with absolute clarity and intense emotion. You see yourself already in possession of the thing you desire. You see the bank account. You see the business thriving. You see the lifestyle. You see yourself as the person who has already achieved it. And you feel it. You generate the emotion of accomplishment, of gratitude, of certainty. You let that emotion flood your body. You hold it for as long as you can. 5 minutes minimum, 10 is better. And you do this every single morning without exception. Then, every night, right before sleep, you do it again. You visualize, you feel, you impress upon your subconscious the reality you are creating. This is auto-suggestion, the process of feeding your subconscious deliberate instructions, and when done consistently, it works. Not because of magic, but because you are rewriting the code. You are replacing fear with confidence, doubt with certainty, scarcity with abundance, and over time, your behavior changes, your decisions change, your perceptions change, not because you are forcing yourself, but because your subconscious now expects success instead of failure. It sees opportunities instead of obstacles. It moves toward wealth instead of away from it. This is alignment. This is when your conscious goals and your subconscious programming are finally working together. And when that happens, success becomes inevitable. Now, here is something critical. Your subconscious cannot tell the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. This is not a metaphor, this is neuroscience. When you visualize something with enough detail and emotion, your brain fires the same neural pathways as if the experience were actually happening. It creates the same chemical responses, the same patterns, the same memories. So when you repeatedly visualize success, your subconscious begins to treat it as something that has already happened. And because the subconscious seeks consistency, it starts to align your behavior with that reality. It makes you act like someone who is already successful. It makes you think like someone who is already wealthy. It makes you move like someone who expects to win. And that shift in identity changes everything. Because you attract what you are, not what you want. If you are fearful, you attract more reasons to fear. If you are abundant, you attract more abundance. Not mystically, practically. Through the decisions you make, the risks you take, the opportunities you notice, all of it flows from your internal state. And your internal state is controlled by your subconscious. So when you program your subconscious for wealth, you become magnetic to it. Now, let me tell you what interferes with this process. Conflicting messages. You spend 10 minutes visualizing success. Then you spend 2 hours scrolling through content that makes you feel inadequate. You affirm your goals in the morning. Then you spend the evening complaining about how hard everything is. You declare abundance. Then you worry constantly about money. This is like trying to drive forward with the parking brake on. The subconscious receives mixed signals, and it defaults to the stronger signal, which is usually the negative one, because negative emotions are more intense than positive ones. Fear is louder than hope. Worry is stickier than confidence, so you must guard your inputs obsessively. You must control what enters your mind, what you read, what you watch, what you listen to, who you spend time with. All of it is programming, and if you're not deliberate about it, the world will program you for mediocrity, for fear, for limitation, because that is what sells. That is what keeps people compliant. That is what prevents them from rising. But you're not most people. You're someone who understands the game, and you refuse to let your subconscious be programmed by accident. So here is what you do. You create a morning routine that programs success, visualization, affirmation, reading or listening to material that elevates you. You start every day flooding your subconscious with the right messages. Then, throughout the day, you monitor your thoughts. When you catch yourself thinking scarcity, you interrupt it. When you catch yourself doubting, you redirect it. When you catch yourself repeating old patterns, you stop and choose differently. This is vigilance. This is mental discipline, and it is exhausting at first, because you are fighting years of conditioning. But over time, it becomes easier. The new patterns become automatic, and eventually, the subconscious fully accepts the new programming. At that point, you do not have to force anything. You just operate naturally at a higher level. You think wealthy thoughts without trying. You make confident decisions without hesitation. You see opportunities everywhere because your subconscious is tuned to that frequency. This is mastery, and it is worth every ounce of effort it takes to get there. Now, let me give you one more technique, written auto-suggestion. Every day you write your primary goal by hand, not typed, handwritten, because the act of writing engages your brain differently. It slows you down. It forces focus. It creates a deeper impression. You write the goal in present tense as if it is already accomplished. I am earning $500,000 per year. I am the founder of a thriving company. I am financially free and living with purpose. Whatever your goal is, you write it. And as you write it, you feel it. You generate the emotion of already having it. This compounds the programming, the visual act of writing, the kinesthetic sensation, the emotional state, all of it working together to etch the goal into your subconscious. Do this for 90 days without missing a single day. And I guarantee you will see changes. Not just in your external circumstances, though. Those will shift too. But in your internal state, in your confidence, in your clarity, in your certainty, you will feel different. You will move different. You will be different. Because you reprogram the command center. And when the command center changes, everything downstream changes with it. So here is your assignment. Tonight, before you sleep, you begin your auto-suggestion practice. You lie down. You close your eyes. You visualize your goal with as much detail as possible. You see it. You feel it. You let the emotion build until it is overwhelming. And you hold it for at least 5 minutes. Tomorrow morning, immediately upon waking, you do it again. And you continue this practice every single day for the next 30 days. No exceptions. No days off. No, I will do it later. You do it first thing in the morning and last thing at night, every day, without fail. Additionally, you write your goal by hand once per day, in present tense, with emotion. Treat this like the most important appointment of your day, because it is. This is not extra. This is not optional. This is the foundation of everything else you are building. Because you can have the best plan, the strongest desire, the most persistence, but if your subconscious is programmed for failure, you will sabotage yourself at every turn. You will find ways to fail that you did not even know existed, not consciously, but automatically. Because the subconscious always wins, so you must win the subconscious first. You must align it with your goals. You must make it your ally instead of your enemy. And when you do, when your conscious and subconscious are finally working together, you become unstoppable. Not because you never face obstacles, but because you navigate them automatically. Not because you never doubt, but because the doubt is overridden by deeper certainty. Not because success is easy, but because your entire system is optimized for it. This is the power of programming your subconscious. This is the secret that changes everything, and it starts tonight, with one visualization, one moment of deliberate programming, one step toward alignment. Take that step, honor the commitment, and watch as your reality begins to shift. Not someday, not eventually, now. Chapter 10. The Transmutation. Turning every adversity into advantage. There is a moment that comes to everyone who pursues something great. A moment when everything you have built seems to crumble. When the obstacles multiply faster than you can handle them. When the resources vanish. When the people leave. When the path forward disappears completely. This is not a possibility. This is a certainty. If you are playing a game worth playing, you will face this moment. And what you do in that moment determines everything. This is the 10th principle, the principle of transmutation, the ability to convert every setback into a setup, every obstacle into an opportunity, every failure into fuel. This is the ultimate mastery. Because anyone can succeed when conditions are favorable. Anyone can make progress when the wind is at their back. But the truly exceptional, the ones who build empires, who create fortunes, who leave legacies, they succeed when conditions are hostile. They thrive in chaos. They grow stronger through adversity. They transmute everything that would destroy others into the very thing that propels them forward. This is alchemy, not literal alchemy, but the mental and emotional process of transformation, taking the raw material of hardship and refining it into wisdom, strength, and advantage. Let me tell you what most people do when adversity strikes. They collapse. They panic. They interpret the setback as evidence that they should quit. They see the obstacle and they conclude that the universe is against them, that success is not meant for them, that they should have never tried in the first place, and so they retreat. They return to safety. They tell themselves a story about how they gave it their best shot, and they spend the rest of their lives wondering what could have been. This is tragedy. Not because they failed, but because they were so close. Because adversity is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. Adversity is a sign that you are on the exact right path. It is the test, the initiation, the fire that burns away everything weak and reveals what is truly unbreakable. Every great achievement has a moment of crisis right before the breakthrough, right before the success becomes visible. This is not coincidence. This is pattern. The darkest hour really is just before dawn, but only if you survive the darkness. Now here is what you must understand about adversity. It is not personal. It is not punishment. It is not evidence of unworthiness. It is simply resistance. And resistance is proportional to ambition. Small goals create small resistance. Big goals create massive resistance. So if you're facing massive adversity, congratulations. It means you are playing big. It means you are threatening the status quo. It means you are on the verge of something significant, and the universe is testing whether you truly want it, whether you are willing to pay the price, whether you have what it takes. This is the transmutation mindset. You stop seeing adversity as something that happens to you, and you start seeing it as something that happens for you. Every obstacle is a teacher. Every failure is feedback. Every setback is an opportunity to get better, smarter, stronger. This is not positive thinking. This is strategic thinking. Because when you transmute adversity, you extract value from it. You learn lessons your competitors will never learn because they quit before the lesson arrived. You develop capabilities that only pressure can forge. You build a resilience that becomes your greatest competitive advantage. Let me give you a framework for transmutation. First, when adversity strikes, you pause. You do not react. You do not panic. You do not make decisions from emotion. You pause and you breathe. You create space between the event and your response. This space is power, because in that space you get to choose how you interpret what just happened, and your interpretation determines your response, and your response determines your outcome. So you choose an empowering interpretation, not a delusional one, not denial, but an interpretation that serves your goals. The deal fell through. Weak interpretation. I knew this would not work. I am not cut out for this. Strong interpretation. This deal was not the right fit. Something better is coming. The product launch failed. Weak interpretation. I wasted all that time and money. I should quit. Strong interpretation. I just learned 10 things that do not work. Now I know exactly what to fix. The investor said no. Weak interpretation. No one believes in me. This idea is stupid. Strong interpretation. That investor was not aligned. The right investor will see the vision. Do you see the difference? Same event, completely different meaning. And meaning creates momentum, or meaning creates paralysis. You choose. Second, you extract the lesson. Every adversity contains information. Your job is to find it. What did this experience reveal about your strategy? What assumptions were proven wrong? What blind spots were exposed? What skills do you need to develop? What support do you need to seek? You turn the adversity into an education, and education has value, often more value than the success you were originally pursuing, because the success comes and goes, but the lessons compound forever. Third, you adjust and advance. You do not go back. You do not retreat. You adjust your approach, and you keep moving forward. Maybe you pivot the business model. Maybe you change the marketing strategy. Maybe you bring on a partner. Maybe you delay the timeline. Whatever adjustment is needed, you make it. But you do not abandon the mission. You adapt the method while maintaining the objective. This is intelligent persistence. This is strategic flexibility. This is how you navigate complexity and chaos without losing your way. Fourth, you use the adversity as fuel. Anger can be fuel. Frustration can be fuel. Even fear can be fuel when channeled correctly. When transmuted into determination, into focus, into relentless action. You take the emotional intensity of the setback and you direct it toward your goal. You let it sharpen you. You let it motivate you. You let it prove to yourself and to everyone watching that you are not someone who breaks. This is the warrior mindset. Not aggressive, not violent, but unconquerable. Now let me tell you about the hidden gift in adversity. Adversity reveals who you really are. When everything is easy, when success comes quickly, you never truly test yourself. You never know what you're made of. But when you face real hardship, when you are pushed to your limits, when you have every reason to quit and you choose to continue, something changes. You discover strength you did not know you had. You find reserves of courage, creativity, and determination that were dormant. You become someone new, someone capable, someone proven, and that person, the one forged in adversity, is unstoppable. Because they know they can handle anything. They have already survived the worst. They have already been tested and they did not break. So whatever comes next, they face it with confidence. Not arrogance, but earned confidence. The kind that comes from walking through fire and emerging on the other side. This is the real wealth. Not the money, not the success, but the person you become in the process of pursuing it. Because that person can create wealth again and again. That person can lose everything and rebuild from scratch. That person is anti-fragile. They do not just survive adversity, they grow stronger from it. Now, here is something you must accept. Adversity will never stop coming. There is no level of success where challenges disappear. The challenges just change. They get bigger, more complex, more consequential, but they never go away. So if you are waiting for life to get easy, you will be waiting forever. The goal is not to eliminate adversity. The goal is to master your response to it. To become someone who meets every challenge with clarity, confidence, and capability. Someone who transmutes everything into advantage. This is mastery. This is freedom. Because when you no longer fear adversity, when you no longer avoid it, when you actually welcome it as an opportunity to grow, you become unlimited. Nothing can stop you, because you are no longer controlled by circumstances. You are controlled by purpose, and purpose is stronger than any obstacle. Let me tell you what happens when you fully embrace transmutation. You stop wasting energy on resistance. You stop complaining. You stop blaming. You stop wishing things were different. You accept what is, and you immediately focus on what you can do about it. This is efficiency. This is power. This is the difference between those who succeed and those who do not. Successful people do not have fewer problems. They just respond to problems differently. They do not waste time in victimhood. They do not spiral into despair. They assess, adjust, and act, and they do it quickly, because they understand that speed of recovery matters more than avoiding the hit. Everyone gets hit. Not everyone gets back up. So here is your assignment. Think about the biggest adversity you're facing right now, the problem that feels overwhelming, the obstacle that seems insurmountable, the situation that has you questioning everything. Now write down 3 ways that adversity could become an advantage, 3 lessons it is teaching you, 3 strengths it is building, 3 opportunities it is revealing. Force yourself to find them. They are there. They're always there. But you have to look. Then decide on one action you can take today to move forward despite the adversity, not to solve it completely, just to take one step, to prove to yourself that you're not paralyzed, that you're still in motion, that you're still in the fight, and take that action today, right now, if possible. Because action is the antidote to despair. Movement is the cure for stuck, and momentum, once created, becomes self-reinforcing. Now, let me leave you with this final truth. Every person who has achieved something great has a story of adversity, a moment when they almost quit, a crisis that nearly destroyed them, a setback that seemed insurmountable, and the only reason they succeeded is because they chose transmutation over surrender. They chose to extract value from the pain. They chose to grow instead of shrink. They chose to see the adversity as a chapter in their success story, not the end of it. You have that same choice, right now, in this moment. You can let adversity define you, or you can use it to refine you. You can see it as evidence that you should quit, or you can see it as proof that you are close. You can retreat to safety, or you can advance through the fire. The choice is yours, but understand this. The version of you that achieves your goal does not exist yet. That version is being forged right now, in the adversity, in the struggle, in the moments when quitting seems rational and continuing seems insane. That is where transformation happens. That is where the ordinary become extraordinary. That is where you become the person capable of living the life you've been imagining. So do not run from the fire. Walk through it. Let it burn away everything that is not essential, everything that is weak, everything that does not serve the mission, and emerge on the other side stronger, wiser, and unstoppable, because that is who you are. Not someone who avoids adversity, but someone who transmutes it into fuel, into wisdom, into power. This is your path. This is your destiny. And it begins the moment you decide that nothing, absolutely nothing, will stop you. Not failure, not criticism, not obstacles, not adversity. Nothing. That decision, that unwavering commitment to transmutation changes everything, and it changes it now. The beginning of your fortune. You have just received the blueprint, 10 principles that have created more wealth, more success, more transformation than any other philosophy in history. But knowledge alone changes nothing. You already knew that. What matters now is what you do next. Will you close this audiobook and return to the same patterns that have kept you where you are? Or will you make a different choice, the choice to begin, right now, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, not when you feel ready, now? Because everything you want is on the other side of a single decision. The decision to apply what you have learned, to test these principles in your own life, to become living proof that they work. Here is what I want you to do immediately. Take out a piece of paper, write down your definite major purpose, the one goal that, if achieved, would transform everything. Be specific, be bold, be honest. Then, write down the deadline, the exact date by which you will achieve it. No vagueness, no wiggle room, make it real. Next, read that goal out loud, twice. Once in the morning when you wake, once at night before you sleep. every single day without exception. This is your commitment. This is your contract with yourself. And this is how fortunes begin, not with grand gestures, but with simple, daily, disciplined action. You now possess something most people will never have: clarity, a proven system, a roadmap that has been tested by millions and validated by results. But the system only works if you work it. So work it, with everything you have, with absolute faith, with relentless persistence, and watch as your life transforms in ways you cannot yet imagine. If this audiobook has given you value, if these principles have sparked something inside you, I ask one thing: share it. Not because I need you to, but because someone in your life needs to hear this message. Someone is stuck right now where you were an hour ago. Someone is doubting themselves. Someone is one decision away from changing everything. Be the catalyst. Share this audiobook with them. Leave a comment below telling us which principle hit you hardest. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss the content that will keep you sharp, focused, and growing. Because this is not the end. This is the beginning of your fortune, the beginning of your transformation, the beginning of the life you were always meant to live. Everything starts now. Go build your empire.